Hello besties, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Today's video is not only just fun, but necessary. I don't know if any of you have noticed my Goodreads. It's bad. So that is the purpose of today's video. I am sick and tired of being in the middle of so many books. Like, don't get me wrong, I love mood reading. I love reading multiple books at the same time. I love having the choice between multiple different books depending on like what genre or what exactly I'm interested in. However, this is just too many, and it's been too many for months. So in today's video, we are going to be finishing not only just books that I'm in the middle of, but more specifically finishing as many books I'm in the middle of reading as possible before I go on vacation to Las Vegas in like 4 days for my friend's bachelorette party. So that's what we're gonna do. We are going to just try and binge the rest of these books so I can get caught up. Maybe at most be in the middle of like 3 or 4 books instead of 14. Because what is that? That's crazy. I already know the first 2 books that I want to try and finish because these are the 2 books that I am the farthest into, and I believe I only have between like 35 and 45 minutes left in each of these books. So I feel like it'll be a really good way to start the video and like very motivating to be able to just like finish 2 books right off the bat within like an hour, hour and a half. The first 2 books that I want to try and finish today are first The Risk, which is the first book in the Mindfuck series. I was originally gonna read the Mindfuck series like as a whole, but then I decided like because Kindle Unlimited has the books separated out anyway, I figured I might as well just read them separately and it will be like really good in between books. Like say I'm reading a bunch of really long, heavy fantasies, I feel like it'll be so nice to have a little thriller romance to like throw in between those that are like super short, because if you don't know, the Mindfuck series is like 5 really short books put together into one whole book. Bentley, you gotta stop. He's like trying to find a bed right under the camera. Say hello. Anyway, the Mindfuck series is basically a serial killer romance, and the book itself is a collection of like 5 different shorter books. Like they're almost like novellas, so they're super short and easy to read. I'm pretty sure whenever I started this, I got this far in like 1 sitting, and then I just like never finished it, which is unhinged, yes, but it's like very quick and easy to read. So I think I'm just going to be reading them separately, not necessarily one after the other. Maybe if I have the chance with the later books to like, you know, doing back to back. Anyway, just yapping for no reason. The first book is The Risk, which is first book in the Mindfuck series. The second book that I'm super close to finishing is Zodiac Academy by, I think this is actually by 2 authors, which I didn't realize until recently, but Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. I think that they actually go by the Twisted Sisters because they like write everything together. Honestly, I don't really know. Like I'm very new to this world and these authors, and I feel like I don't know all of the lore. So if I'm incorrect, please feel free to educate me about the Twisted Sisters, because I actually would love to learn more about like the lore of the world and their books and the authors and all that stuff, because this series and these authors are very, very beloved by so many people. And honestly, I see why. I'm currently on page 270 of Zodiac Academy, which is the first book in the Zodiac Academy series. This book is essentially about these 2 twins who were like raised in the mortal world and don't realize that they are fae. Yeah, so they are, Bentley, come on, come lay down. No, all the way over here, not under the camera. Okay, well, he just laid directly under the camera, and I'm not gonna move him because he looks cozy. So it's about these 2 sisters, Darcy, and I always forget the other sister's name. I literally cannot remember her name ever. Tori. Thank you. I always think Darcy and Stacy because TLC. Darcy and Tori, they are twin sisters and they're raised in the mortal world. They don't know that they are fae, and then one day this guy comes and like almost like kidnaps them, honestly, and he brings them to this school for like initiation, and they realize that they actually have powers, like elemental powers, and that they are fae. And not only that, but they are actually the heirs to the throne in this world. But in order to be able to reclaim their throne and like inherit their parents' riches and all this stuff, they have to be able to graduate the school and like prove their worth almost by like showing their powers at the school and all this stuff. This has been so good so far. This is honestly, I think it's like a 13 book interconnected series, and all it took was 1 TikTok to convince me to start it. I'll put the girl up here because I love her TikTok. She gives so many good book recommendations, but I saw 1 TikTok by her about this series and I immediately started reading it. So with this series, I do plan on reading it in the order, how am I trying to say this? I plan on reading it along with the interconnected series in that order, instead of finishing just the Zodiac Academy and then the Boys of the Zodiac and then like whatever else. I'm just gonna read it in the recommended order that I found on TikTok. So I will be switching kind of between different series just within this world, if that makes sense. So these are the first 2 books that I want to try and get through and finish. Like I said, I think it'll only take me like just over an hour, like maybe an hour and 20 minutes to finish both of these, and I feel like that's such a good way to start off this video and just like very motivating to right off the bat check 2 boxes off of my list. So I think I want to start off by finishing The Risk, and then directly after that I'm going to just go right into the Zodiac Academy and finish this one, and then I will check in with you guys once I have finished both of these and give you like my rating and final thoughts. And then we will pick our next book, which I already feel like in my brain I have like a working catalog of what books I'm closest to finishing, so that I can just like continue on with like the motivation of being able to finish the book relatively quickly. So let's get started. Just spilled my Alani all over the bed. I have finished both The Risk, right? Is that what the first one is called? The Risk? And The Awakening, which is the first book in the Zodiac Academy. It has taken me so much longer than it should have. First of all, for some reason on my Kindle, it was saying that I had 43 minutes left in Zodiac Academy, but then once I actually started reading it, after like 5 minutes of reading, it upped my time to like 3 hours. I have no idea why it did that. I feel like it's never done that to me before. Either I was reading at like a ridiculous speed the last time that I read it and I just was not there this time, or like I have no idea what happened with that. So that in itself added at least 3 hours, but then also I feel like my ADHD today has been so bad. It just took me a good 5.5, 6 hours to get through that 3 hours of the book. Like I was reading at double my speed. Does that even make sense? I don't know. Every 5 seconds I was like going on my phone or looking at this and looking at that, and the kids were playing around me, and like we made paper airplanes, so they were like flying the paper airplanes, and it was just like I could not focus. Like literally at one point Mark had to hold my phone for me because I couldn't stop getting distracted on it. So it just took me way longer to get through that. It's already 4:48 p.m. It's okay though, we're staying positive. I finished 2 books today. I'm just happy that I'm at least getting through my, I was gonna say TBR, but it's just books that I'm in the middle of. I don't even know what to call it, just like my unhinged pile. Like I don't know. To really quickly give a review so we can keep trying to get through more books. I'm gonna try not to like do so much yapping in this video, but we all know that's pretty much gonna be impossible for me. First, to start off with my review of The Risk, which is the Mindfuck series book number 1. My final rating for that is 4 stars. It was so good. I feel like obviously like all the books are connected, but since I'm reading them separately, like the book technically was really short, but I feel like for the length of the book, like I'm already very, I don't want to say intrigued. I feel like I'm just very like into the story and like almost attached to the characters. I mean, definitely the main character. I'm like already very much rooting for her and like very invested. That's the word I'm looking for, invested. Like I feel like I'm already really invested in her story, and I feel like I see people compare the Mindfuck series to Butcher and Blackbird all the time, and I feel like in a way, yes, they're similar because they're both like serial killer romances, and you know, you get the side of her literally being a serial killer, but then it's also like the side plot of romance. But I feel like Butcher and Blackbird really has more of an undertone of like comedy, almost like it's like a rom-com serial killer romance, but like the Mindfuck series is very much a more serious undertone, if that makes sense, but it still is like really good. And I feel like I haven't really read any horrors because I feel like I personally will not like too much like gore and grossness and stuff, and like Butcher and Blackbird, while it wasn't too much for me. There was definitely times where I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, oh, I don't know. And I feel like it's been about a similar amount. Like maybe the Mindfuck series has been a little bit worse. I don't really know because it hasn't been too much for me. So that's literally all I have to go off of. But everyone's like opinion on like what amount of like gross goreness, I guess, they can handle will be different. But I'm really, really loving it so far. So far the romance is eating. I'm like, I don't know. I'm so here for it. And the way that the book ends, it really makes you want to directly dive into the next book. I was so tempted to just open up the book and start again, but I'm like, Hallie, that literally this is not the point of this video. Like, stop starting new books, finish the ones you're in the middle of, and I'm going to try and use that as my motivation to get through the books that I'm already in the middle of, because I'm like, okay, once I get through some of the books that I'm in the middle of, then I can start more books without a guilty conscience, because I will be adding on to like a smaller pile. You know what I mean? Like, it really feels way more unhinged to start a book when I'm already in the middle of 14 versus like if I was in the middle of like 6. Still not the best, but better. So anyway, that's my thoughts on The Risk. I feel like I don't have too much to say because, like I said, it's book 1 of 5 in the series, and I don't even know how many pages total the first book was, but I'm really liking it so far, and I feel like it's set up really well for the rest of the little book series, and I'm really excited to read the rest of it. Moving on to The Zodiac Academy, the book that has taken up majority of my day today. This is so good. I am so ready to get into the rest of this series. I know so many people love this series, and I absolutely understand why. And to my understanding, like, the rest of the series just gets way better than the first book, and I feel like I'm already hooked. I rated this 4 stars. I feel like it's very much giving, I don't know how to explain this. Okay, let me preface this by saying this is not a YA book. It's very much adult fantasy, but the vibes that you get from it is like nostalgic almost. Like, it feels like reading as a kid whenever you're like entering the world of Harry Potter, or you're reading Hunger Games, or you're reading Twilight. Like, that's like the vibes it gives off of. And I don't know if it's because they're like fae and they're at a school, but it's like a college, so like they're all older. They're not in high school, it's like a college, but like because it's in a school setting, I don't know if that's why it's like giving me nostalgia, but the vibes are just so good. And I feel like I'm so glad that I'm starting this now, because I will have this series to read through the fall, because I feel like the vibes for fall time in this are amazing. But I just love the way that this was written, like from the very beginning. I don't know if it's like the writing or whatever, but it's very like atmospheric, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I could just so clearly picture all of the scenes that were described, and I can so clearly picture the school and just like everything that's going on. And also, I've never read a book where it centers around twins, so it's really cool because you're getting like both of their perspectives, but they do a lot together and then separately. I don't know, it's just like, it was so good. It was so good. I cannot wait to read the next book in the series. And again, the way that this one ended, it just sets up so nicely to like almost motivate you to start the next book quicker, because you're like, okay, I want to know what happens next. Like, I need to know. In this series, I've seen people say that you'll be very like broken at some points, like kind of similar to how everyone's like, oh, me when I started Throne of Glass, what a cute fun little fantasy. And then you read Kingdom of Ash and your soul is ripped out and you're just like torn to pieces. So that one I'm also kind of scared to read, but I'm so excited to read Throne of Glass too. I don't know, I'm so big into my fantasy romances right now. I feel like truly at my core, I'm a fantasy girly. Like, I love romances and I love sports. I won't say sports romances. I love hockey romances. And I've read like some of the Chestnut Spring series. I love cowboy romances, but nothing hits like a fantasy to me. I definitely am like a fantasy girly. So this, so good. I'm so excited to read the next books in the series. First 2 books of the video done. The next book that I want to read, which I'm so excited about. I feel like I would have finished this book if we hadn't moved. It's just like, I mean, that's the case with all these books, so I'm not even gonna say that. I don't really have a real reason why I haven't finished these books. But the next book that I want to finish is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. If I am pronouncing that wrong, I'm so sorry. This book has been so good so far, and honestly, I'm gonna say this about like all the books that I'm in the middle of, because truly like none of them are disappointing, I feel like, so far. But this book specifically, I started it on my Kindle randomly one night when I was like snuggling one of the kids in bed, and I ended up sitting in bed and reading like 70% of the book. Like, I was flying through the book. It was just like keeping my attention so well. This is a enemies to lovers about like a witch, but it's not a witch as in like I'm gonna fly in on my broom, that kind of witch. witch. The system that it operates in is honestly so interesting. So basically, what is this book about? Okay. Can you tell my ADHD is all over the place, like I said? So this book follows this girl. What even is her name? Rune. How could I forget that? Gideon and Rune. How could I forget that? Okay. In this book, you're following Rune. She is a witch, and the city that she lives in basically has outlawed witches, and anytime that they find a witch, they basically execute them and like make a, what's it called? Make a statement. I don't know if it's like make a statement. They make an example out of them essentially. And so Rune is a witch, but she has like a secret persona. It's not a persona. She basically at night is the Crimson Moth, and she helps captured witches to escape the city before they're executed, and also just helps witches get out of the city in general and just like flee to safety. And essentially she is trying to figure out a way that she can get more information from the Blood Guard, which is like essentially like the police of the city. She's trying to figure out a way that she can get more information consistently from the Blood Guard. And during the day, she's like a very esteemed lady of the ton, you know? Like, I don't even know if I'm using that word correctly. It just felt right in the moment, you know? But essentially, she's a very esteemed woman in society. She's like part of high society. And so no one would ever suspect her as the Crimson Moth. So essentially, she is like coming to marriage age, and she's like, okay, I should probably just pick a suitor that has connections to the Blood Guard so that I can at least continue to get really good information. They're never going to expect anything from me, and I can continue to be the Crimson Moth and like help other witches to escape and all this stuff. I just need a marriage that is going to gain me information and not compromise my position as the Crimson Moth. She then decides to try and form a fake relationship with the captain of the Blood Guard, but little does she know that the reason that the captain of the Blood Guard is kind of pursuing her as well is because he suspects her of being the Crimson Moth. So she is having to like obviously just play it off like, oh, I'm just Rune, like I'm just a lady of high society, and she's literally just like gaslighting him so hard throughout this whole book while he's trying to figure out like, is she the Crimson Moth? Like, who is the Crimson Moth? Like, this is so weird. Meanwhile, she's trying to get information from him the whole time so that she can save other witches, specifically this one witch. I forget how they're connected, honestly, but that's basically this whole game. Like, they're basically both trying to secretly uncover each other. So it's like enemies. And I've heard that it doesn't even go like to lovers by the end of this book. Like, they're still enemies and it's kind of like uncertain territory. But so far, the little bits and pieces of romance that we have been dropped in this book have been so good. I think my last update on Goodreads of this book, let me see, I'll put it on screen. This was literally, look, 1 month ago. How insane is this? This was literally like 2 in the morning. Let me give you an active replay of me in this moment. Gideon. Oh my god, I love this man. And what I said is, it's giving, you are the bane of my existence and the object of all of my desires. Oh my god, even just reading that just brings me right back into the book. I love Gideon. I love him. I love him. I wrote that right after a moment of getting like a literal crumb of romance, and I'm like, I love you. Anyway, that is the next book that I am going to try and finish. Honestly, the last time I was reading this, I was kind of getting 5-star feelings. My anticipation for this is it's either going to be a very high 4-star or possibly a 5-star read. I don't want to speak too soon, but I am very, very, very excited to finish this. So this is the next book that I'm going to be reading. I will check in with you guys whenever I'm done, because I think my Kindle says 2 hours and 48 minutes estimated left in the book. So I will see you guys in a few hours. Hopefully I can like focus this time and not take 6 hours to finish 3 hours of a book, but you never really know whenever you have ADHD. It's like sometimes you hyperfixate and then sometimes it's just literally impossible. So we'll see. Oh my god. Okay, well, I finished the book. 5 stars. This was so devastatingly good. It was so good. The ending of this made me cry like so hard. If you have watched any of my other videos, you know, like I feel like I really don't cry very easily with books. Obviously it depends on like your mood when you're reading quite a bit, but the only other book that has really made me cry other than this is like The 7-Year Slip, and that was so unexpected. Like even when I was reading Akamov and Akawar, especially Akawar, it's like I would never cry because when something like devastating would happen, I would just like, yeah, that didn't happen. Like I would just continue on throughout the book in denial. So I don't know what was going on with that, but this was so good. The plot of this book is just so interesting. I feel like from the very beginning, you're just like put into this world and it's so captivating, and the enemies to lovers in this is so good. It's like a cat and mouse type thing, which I just discovered what that is. So look at me using new terminology. But yeah, it's like a cat and mouse, enemies to lovers. So good. And like, this is like, when you say enemies to lovers, it's like genuinely they would kill each other, like genuine enemies to lovers, very high stakes, like so good. And I think that this is just a duology, so I think that the second book to this is gonna come out next year, and I'm pretty sure it's just those two, and I'm so excited for it because it was so good. I don't even know what else to say about it. Read this book. It was so good. Look at me being useless. I have nothing else to say. It was so good. The way that it ended, the plot twists, the enemies to lovers, the plot in general. It was so good, and I'm so excited to see how the second book goes and like how the story kind of wraps up. I feel like I really have no idea what could happen in the second book because things are like cray-cray right now. So I'm like, I have no idea what's gonna happen, and I'm so excited to see it. It's 9:44 p.m. right now. I don't think that I'm going to do any more reading physically or on my Kindle. However, there is still one thing I have to do tonight, which is just to make a thumbnail because I'm gonna be uploading a video tomorrow, and I already took the pictures for the thumbnail, but I just need to go on Procreate and like actually make the thumbnail and make sure that it's ready to go for tomorrow morning. So I think I'm gonna listen to an audiobook while I do that, and then tomorrow morning I have a bunch of clothes that are like freshly washed but I have not put away, so I think I'm also going to listen to an audiobook tomorrow morning as well. So tonight the audiobook that I'm gonna listen to is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. On Audible it says I only have like 2.5 hours left of this, and I feel like sometimes it takes me a really long time to make a thumbnail because I'll make like 20 different versions and then make 20,000 different changes to those 20 different versions, and it will take me forever to just choose one, and then sometimes it goes faster. So I may or may not finish that tonight. I probably won't, honestly, because it's like 2.5 hours left. It'll be so late, and like Bowie has school tomorrow because tomorrow's Monday and everything, so I'll probably get quite a bit through it and then finish it in the morning, and I'll probably honestly listen to another audiobook after that while I do laundry because I have quite a bit of laundry to do, so I'm definitely going to have more laundry than like what will be left in the audiobook, if that makes sense. But I will just update you guys in the morning on if I end up getting through the audiobook for One Dark Window. This book so far, I don't even know how to like describe the plot because I've been listening to the audiobook here and there like while I clean and do different things around, and for the first like part of this book I was honestly kind of confused by the plot of it, and I don't know why I was confused because I feel like it's simple, but sometimes, I don't know if this just happens to me, but sometimes like randomly you'll just like be like, what is this book even about, you know? And that's kind of how I felt in this all the way up until the last like 20 minutes that I listened to, honestly, and I'm pretty far in the book. But this book I think is about this town that has, it's like called a mist, I think. It follows Elspeth Spindle. Let me just read the synopsis because I'm not going to be able to explain it. I think it's also just because it's late and my brain is genuinely not working. So before I butcher this and then we're all confused, let me just read the synopsis. It says, Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to save... Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to save her life. What? Needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mislocked kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient, what even is that word? A mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her, he keeps her secrets, but nothing comes free, especially magic. When Elspeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, her life takes a drastic turn. Thrust into a world of shadow and deception, she joins a dangerous quest to cure blunder of the dark magic infecting it. Except the highwayman just so happens to be the king's own nephew, captain of the most dangerous men in Blunder, and guilty of high treason. A maiden must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom in this dark, lush, gothic fantasy debut. Well, that pretty much sums it up. This is what I'm going to be listening to. I feel like right now I'm like sitting pretty middle of the road. I really don't know what I will end up rating this. I feel like because I was so confused for the first part of the book, I don't really have a rating because it was entertaining. It was like good to listen to, but I wasn't super attached because I was kind of like confused the whole time. So maybe now that I have a little bit more of a semblance of what's going on, I'll enjoy the audiobook better, but I will just have to update you guys tomorrow and we'll see how it's going. But I cannot believe I found a 5-star read. This was so good. If you have not read this book, read this book right now, please. That's it. It's been a few hours. Excuse the way I look right now because I've literally been just cleaning all day. And also I think whenever I washed my makeup off yesterday, like I definitely didn't get it all off. So I'm looking a little bit raggedy, but it's fine because that's not the point today. Like some days it's nice to get ready and read and whatever, but sometimes you just want to be a sloth and read. And so that's what we're going with today. This morning I ended up finishing the One Dark Window audiobook. Like I said, only had I think like 2.5 hours left in this, and that was with me listening to it on 1.75 speed. For that one specifically, like the one-time speed was like literally slow motion, so I felt like 1.75 made it sound like okay, they're talking normal. When I sped it up to like 2.5, that's when it entered like gibberish territory, so I slowed her down to 1.75 so that they just sounded normal. This actually ended up surprising me. Whenever I checked in with you guys yesterday about this book, I felt like very middle of the road with it, as in like I was kind of leaning towards 3 stars, like it was a good book but nothing crazy, but I didn't dislike it, you know. But I will say, like, I was feeling a little bit confused with the plot and like the magic system and like where we were going with everything, but I think it was just because I wasn't far enough into the book. Like I just hadn't made it far enough into the book to really understand what was going on, I guess, because listening to it last night and this morning, a lot of things clicked into place and I definitely understood, one, the magic system a lot better, but then also 2, the plot. And I think it's just because, again, like I got farther in the book, so different things were revealed and different things like clicked into place, and so obviously a lot more started making sense the more that different things were revealed and, you know, whatever. So that already was kind of raising my rating of it. And I will say the last like 3 chapters of this book definitely raised my rating from like a 3.5 to a 4, because I didn't expect it to end the way that it ended. Like I felt like I was very much predicting where it was gonna go, and then it did not, but I really liked where it went. And I feel like I might possibly end up liking this second book even better than this book, possibly. I know it's a little bit longer too than this one, so I don't know. I am actually now very interested to read the second book, because for a while I literally was thinking to myself, like, I don't even know if I would read the second book, like if I would even be interested in the second book, you know. But after the ending, I really like the way that it ended. I mean, it's tragic, but like, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, I really like the way that it ended because it made me interested in reading the second book. So One Dark Window, I rated 4 stars. I also realized that this is a gothic fantasy, and I actually have never read a gothic fantasy, so I feel like that's also why it like took me a little bit to get into it, because I didn't go into it like expecting gothic fantasy vibes, and it definitely reads different than like a regular romantasy, if that makes sense. So I think that maybe that contributed to like my experience with listening to the audiobook audiobook the first half of the book, because it's definitely like, before reading a gothic fantasy, I feel like I didn't understand what the vibes were, but after reading a gothic fantasy, I feel like I can definitely, like, I see the gothic vibes, if that makes sense. I feel like if you've never read a gothic fantasy, then I just sound like a nut job, but I feel like that also was kind of my problem. But I am positively surprised by this book. So that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and probably when I get to the second book, I'll end up listening to the audiobook as well, just because I listened to the first one on audiobook. I don't know, maybe not. Who knows, honestly. Moving right on. Today is Monday. I am going to be reading for this video today and tomorrow, and then I need to edit this video on Wednesday. Thursday, I'll be packing for Vegas, and then Friday, I'll be leaving to Vegas. So today and tomorrow are really my last days to kind of read, and I really want to just finish as many books as I can before I leave for my trip while I'm like motivated and in such a big reading mood. Because like I said, I'm just tired of being in the middle of so many books. Like, I really don't mind being in the middle of a few books, but I just think that I have gone overboard. I want to finish at least like 2 more books, hopefully between today and tomorrow. The next book that I definitely want to pick up is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I randomly started this because I think it's either on Kindle Unlimited or I got the library copy for free or something, and immediately I was so drawn into the world and the story and the characters, and I was very surprised by that because for some reason this book always really intimidated me, and not this book in particular, but this series in particular always really intimidated me, and I don't really know why. Like, I have a thing with like covers, if they look like this, or like The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and even One Dark Window, like I feel like sometimes with fantasy covers that look like they're gonna be a little bit more serious, I'm like very intimidated by them. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just like books that are really popular, honestly, because I was really intimidated to start ACOTAR too, and ACOTAR is just like a bright red cover, so like, I don't know. I was really intimidated to start the series because I felt like I was not going to be able to follow along with the story if it was like super high fantasy and all this stuff, and it's genuinely not. Like, it is I believe it's a YA fantasy, actually, and I genuinely am enjoying the story so much already that I ended up buying a boxed set of the Cruel Prince trilogy, and then I also got the book that comes after this trilogy, which is How the King of Elfhame Came to Hate Stories, I think, or something like that. But I have been absolutely eating this story up. It is reading so quick and easy. I have been tabbing a little bit here and there, just like little things, but I don't know, I have been really enjoying this, and honestly, it's such a quick and easy read. Like, even just listening to One Dark Window, it was kind of like not heavy, but I don't even know how to describe it, but the feeling of reading like this book versus this book is so different. Like, this one feels like it took more out of me, even though I was just listening to it, but I think it's just because, especially at the end of the book, like there was so much going on, so like my brain was tired even just like listening to it, and so I want to pick up something a little bit not less serious, but like just easier to read. And I don't know if it's because this is a YA, so the way that it's written is kind of like a little bit easier to read for me. I definitely want to stay in the fantasy world, but I just need something a little bit lighter after that because it was just a lot. Like, it was a lot. It was really good at the end, but it was definitely just a lot. So the next book I'm going to be picking up is The Cruel Prince. If you don't know what this series is about, again, I'm just gonna read. I'm just gonna start doing that in all my videos. I'm just gonna read the synopsis when I first start talking about books, because I'm so tired of having to edit like my butchered description of books because I get it wrong every single time. Let me just read the synopsis real quick. So it says, Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, but many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Carden, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King. To win a place at the court, Jude must defy him and face the consequences. You're basically following Jude and her journey in the land of Fairy as a human. And that's all I'll say because that's all that's on the synopsis. But it's just like, it's almost giving cozy fantasy, but I know it's like not, I don't think this is considered a cozy fantasy. What I mean is like, I love the description of the land of Fairy. Like, it's giving cozy little picnic blanket and magic, and like in this they talk about fairy wine and how good fairy food tastes, and it's just like the atmosphere of the world I love so much, and I feel like that's what immediately drew me in, is just like I immediately loved the world that we were in. So I'm really excited to finish this so that I can get farther along in the trilogy, and I really can't wait to read more books by Holly Black because I can just already tell I really love her writing. It's just like so quick and easy to read, but also like a really good story. So, and enough yapping about this book. I am going to sit here and read for a little bit. I only have about an hour before I need to go and pick Bowie up from school, so I definitely am not going to finish this by then, but hopefully I can sit and get through a good chunk of this book, and then maybe we can finish it up tonight and then start another book. Okay. It is the next morning. Cody and I just got back from dropping Bowie off like 30 minutes ago. I feel like this lighting is just horrible. It's really weird because I like cut these bangs and now I feel like when I record in my room, they like put a shadow. Look at how it's not there. And then when I put my bangs down, it like makes my eyes look like they have dark circles or something. So that's fun and exciting. I feel like I didn't record very much of me reading The Cruel Princess today after like that one clip, which first of all, I was literally reading the physical copy because I've been like adding tabs and stuff like that. And I got to page 181 and it's just blank. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's not part of the story because it did not seem like a part that meant to have an entire blank page right after it. But then I was like, okay, maybe it was just like one page, you know, maybe it got messed up. Nope. There's another 2 pages missing. So then I was like, okay, I'll just read those 2 pages and then I'll come back to the physical copy. And then another 2 pages missing. So then at that point I was like, okay, I just give up. I'm just gonna read on my Kindle. So last night after hitting those spots, I ended up just picking up my Kindle and reading on my Kindle for a bit. And then I was like, honestly, I'll just do the highlights in the Kindle. And then once I'm done reading, I will just tab the spots that I highlighted on the Kindle. I believe I have like an hour left in the book. Let me see how far I even got. I got to page 301. It's so satisfying to like read on your Kindle though and update your progress in the book. There's no feeling like that. Okay, so I have like just over 60 pages left in the book and I'm so excited to finish it. It's actually so funny because remember yesterday whenever I came and was like telling you about the book and I was like, I know it's not technically a cozy fantasy, but it's kind of giving cozy fantasy. I take everything back. Apparently the first half of this book feels cozy because it's like setting up, which I should have realized that because this is a trilogy. So obviously the first book is going to have a lot more setup. And so I feel like that's why I was kind of feeling cozy vibes because it was very much like describing the world and building up the world and all the side characters, and that was giving like cozy, like the world vibes wise, but plot wise definitely not cozy fantasy. I was reading last night and out of nowhere something huge happened and I was like, because I genuinely did not see it coming at all. And like, it just, I was already really enjoying myself, but then the plot going to where it went, I'm like loving this so much. I genuinely did not see coming, and I don't know if it was obvious and I'm just like blind or if that genuinely came out of nowhere, but I did not see it coming and I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. Right now, I feel like rating wise, I'm at like a 4.75. The whole book has just been so good to me, so I'm really excited to finish it. I'm going to probably go sit in Coco's room with her while she watches the Eras tour and finish this real quick, and I'll probably finish it on my Kindle, honestly, and then I'll go through and add the tabs for this. And then I was thinking I kind of want to be ambitious and attempt to finish A Court of Silver Flames. I know. Am I crazy? I don't know, because today is my last day to get some reading done before I need to edit this video tomorrow and then prep for the trip Thursday. So really like today and tonight, this is my last chance. So I'm on chapter 40, page 413, and there is, oh my God, I hope I don't see anything. Don't look at the words. Okay, so there's 751 pages and I'm on page 413. Not even gonna attempt to do that. So I have 338 pages left in this book. I feel like if I actually can sit down and focus, I will be able to finish this and The Cruel Prince by the end of today. I might end up having to stay up a little bit late. It really just depends on if I'm able to sit down and focus, because I feel like with every other book that I have read in this video, it's taken me 3 times longer than it should have to read it, just because I have been having like such a hard time concentrating the last few days. I don't know like why that is, but I've been feeling extra like scatterbrain. Like even when I'm talking, I feel like my sentences, I just feel chaotic. So that's my ambitious goal. I don't know if I'll be able to finish this book by the time that the filming period for this video is over, but fingers crossed I can do it. That would be absolutely insane if I can finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books in the span of this video. That's honestly crazy. So that is the goal for today, is to finish this real quick, fill out the tabs from my Kindle, and then finish A Court of Silver Flames, which, if you don't know, this is the 5th book in the ACOTAR series, right? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, book 5. Okay. Well, I guess technically that's a novella, but I feel like it's 1, 2, 3. I feel like it's book 4 and not. Anyway, this is the last book that's currently out in the ACOTAR series, and I really want to finish this before the end of the year because Sarah J. Maas, I think, is going to be coming out with another book in the ACOTAR series, but no one knows when it's going to be coming out. But I just want to be caught up on the series, and once I finish this, I'm going to start Throne of Glass, and I'm so excited to start Throne of Glass. I feel like I'm going to love it so much. It's a very highly anticipated series for me, so I want to at least, my goal for this year was to read the entire ACOTAR series and then start Throne of Glass at least. I'm going to stop yapping because I have a lot of reading to get done today, and I will check in with you guys once I have finished The Cruel Prince and probably gotten a little bit farther into A Court of Silver Flames. It is the next day. I did honestly a horrible job at updating yesterday because I went into Cody's room and I just hung out with her and read, and I just ended up losing myself in the books all day yesterday, which was honestly just like amazing. I just had the best day. We both just relaxed. I would pause, eat lunch with her, go back, hang out with her, read, pick Bowie up. So it was just like a really nice chill day. And then as you saw last night, I ended up coming on the couch and hanging out with Marky while he played Xbox for a bit and finishing A Court of Silver Flames. And then today I've just been busy, and I realized that I actually never came and like talked about any of the books that I read yesterday. So I wanted to really quickly give you guys my final thoughts for both The Cruel Prince and A Court of Silver Flames. I'll start off with The Cruel Prince, obviously, because I finished this one first. I ended up rating this one 5 stars. Oh my god, this was so good. First of all, can we talk about how good my ratings have been throughout this whole video? I feel like all of these have been, I mean, actually I updated one of my ratings to a 3.75, but still super high. I feel like I ended up finishing 6 books in the past 4 days, which is literally insane. I ended up rating this one 5 stars. I literally cannot believe how good this was. Like, the first half of the book was good, like it already had me, but the second half of the book was like, it was just amazing. Like, not only atmospheric wise, but the plot was so good, and the little bits of romance that you get, like, truly, I feel like this is not a romantasy. It's just like a YA fantasy with a very subplot of romance, if that makes sense. But even just like the little crumbs of romance that you get were so cute. And even though it's a YA, I feel like it doesn't necessarily read super YA. Almost like in the way that like Powerless is technically YA, but it doesn't feel YA. I feel like that's like similar vibes wise. Like, I wouldn't judge this necessarily as a YA, but maybe that's just my opinion, you know? But yeah, this was so good. 10 out of 10 recommend. I cannot wait to get farther into this series. A Court of Silver Flames. This is the last book, like I said, that is currently out in the ACOTAR series, and it is so good. It's so good. When it first started off, like the first third of this book, it was going a little bit slow for me, and I was like, yeah, I just don't know like if I'm gonna end up liking this as much as the rest of them. I won't say too much about it plot wise, obviously, because this is the 5th book in a series, so I feel like I don't want to say anything, obviously, because it will spoil, you know? What I will say about this is the character growth that is in this book is so beautiful to watch, and the main character that you follow in this book, I feel like I just relate to them so much, and it's so beautiful to be reading through the story and realize that you connect with something so much once it gets farther along. I feel like out of context, nothing made sense, but if you've read this book, or once you read this book, I feel like that will all make sense. And I feel like the story could have, I don't want to like say too much. All I'll say is I rated this 5 stars as well. Every single book in the ACOTAR series has been 5 stars for me, and now that I finished this, I cannot wait to start the Throne of Glass series. My goal is to start the Throne of Glass series in September, hopefully. Hopefully I can get caught up on the rest of the books that I'm in the middle of. If I'm able to bang them out like I did in the last 4 days, I definitely can get caught up and then starting new books. Hopefully I can start it by September or October. I feel like it'll be so cute and fun to read them through the winter and the fall. I can't believe that I finally finished the ACOTAR series though. This was such a good book though, like definitely did not disappoint. I will say that my favorite book in the ACOTAR series is most definitely still A Court of Mist and Fury. That book will have my heart until the end of time, I'm convinced. Like, that's definitely my favorite book that I have ever read. It's just so good. But you know, a close second to the ACOTAR series for me would be the Nightborn duet. I forget what it's called, but The Serpent in the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, that duology in the novella is like sitting right underneath A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm like trying to think about what else. I don't know, I've read so many fantasies in the past few months and they've all been so good, with the exception of like a few. They've all been so good. So now I'm like, the war between my highest fantasies is so intense right now. So anyway, I'm rambling. If you can't tell, I love fantasy books. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want a part 2 of me trying to finish the rest of the books that I'm in the middle of, let me know, because this was honestly so fun and it gave me such good motivation to finally just sit down and finish these books. Like, all of these books I feel like I was at least 75% finished with, and then I just didn't finish them for some reason. So this definitely just gave me that final push and motivation to finish the book like a normal person. If you guys want to see more, definitely let me know. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe so you can see more content from me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!